Give a minute or two to let everyone come onto the webinar. Welcome to the Department of Family and Support Services Tenant-Based Rental Assistance RFP webinar, which released July 23rd, 2026. And the RFP due date is August 20th, 2026 at 12 noon Central Time. Just a few housekeeping rules. Due to the volume of participants, everyone has been placed on mute. Please submit questions via the question box, and we will respond to questions at the midpoint and end of the presentation. For any technical issues, please make use of the question box to notify us. And please be advised that this webinar is being recorded, and anything stated at this webinar is not intended to change the solicitation document. Any changes will be in writing in the form of an addendum issued by the Department of Family and Support Services. And the purpose of this webinar is to provide information for the solicitation. A copy of the recording will be posted on the DFSS YouTube channel, along with a link to the recording, as well as a PDF to the PowerPoint slides will be posted to the DFSS webpage on the alerts and or funding opportunities tabs. Please give it up to 5 business days to upload. DFSS retains the right to share a list of registrants to this webinar, along with their contact and organizational information at our discretion. At this time, we're going to give the opportunity to the homeless team to introduce themselves.
Morning, everyone. My name is Cameron Kench. I am a program manager with the Homeless Service Division with Department of Family Support Services.
Hi, everyone. Mario McMichael, Senior Director with the Homeless Division and Department of Family and Support Services.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Jillian Black. I am the Procurement Proposal Coordinator here at DFSS. Moving forward, we'll be going through the purpose of the RFP, the background, information about the scope and program description, the selection criteria, timeline, technical assistance for applicants and e-procurement, and then one last round for questions. And with that being said, I'll pass it over to Homeless.
Morning again, and thanks everyone for your interest in this request for funding proposal. We will go through the purpose, background, goals, some of the other criteria that we're looking for with this request. So the City of Chicago Department of Family Support Services Homeless Service Division is looking for an organization to administer rental subsidies for up to 2 years to low-income renters who have previously experienced homelessness. These are households that would also be targeted as those exiting from a rapid rehousing program and require additional supports to return to avoid a return to homelessness. The tenant-based rental assistance program is the pilot program we've chosen to fund in this vehicle to help with this assistance. It is funded with one-time home ARP funding, which we'll get into in the next slides, through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. DFSS seeks respondents with experience in administrating financial assistance, including rental assistance, security deposit, and utility payments. Next slide. So a bit of the background. The HUD has historically funded the Home Investment Partnership program, and during COVID, As part of the American Rescue Plan, the federal government added additional funding to this home investment to provide participating jurisdictions to help them further reduce homelessness onset by the pandemic or following the pandemic and increase housing stability across the country. The city of Chicago's HUD approved home ARP allocation plan is managed jointly by the Chicago Department of Housing and the Department of Housing Family Support Services. In order to be eligible for this funding, jurisdictions had to submit these allocation plans. Chicago was one of those that was approved for this plan, and it allocated about $25 million in federal American Rescue Plan funds. The allocation plan that DOH and DFSS helped devise aligned with Chicago's recovery strategy and resources to maximize things like non-congregate shelter and supportive housing services. One of the really unique features of this plan is that in order to be accepted for this, HUD required that this be a community-led initiative. So in 2021, DFSS and DOH facilitated 3 community feedback sessions where they asked housing stakeholders, persons with lived experience, service providers on what type of services they wanted to see in the community. And one of those that the community sort of voted on or agreed as a need was a tenant-based rental assistance program. The reason that individuals push for this or groups push for this or I have listed here as affordable housing. Obviously, recent national data demonstrates that there's a shortage in affordable housing, in particular amongst lowest income renters. Another factor is that cost burden. Statewide data indicates about 74% of extremely low income renters, so these are renters 30% below the average medium income, are severely cost burdened, underscoring the limited availability of affordable housing options and ongoing mismatch between wages and rental costs. And the other piece is that local investment. Chicago, we've seen significant investment and success with short to medium term housing programs like rapid rehousing, but the challenges of both the cost burden piece and the affordability persist. And because these are short to medium term programs, there always are going to be that group of people that need ongoing support past what those services can provide. So taking in the community feedback and taking into account these factors, the community agreed that a tenant-based rental assistance program would help fill some of that need that we have. So next slide. So what are the goals of the tenant-based rental assistance? It's pretty simple. We're trying to promote housing stability and reduce returns to homelessness. That's kind of our core mission in DFSS and the Homeless Service Division. But yeah, obviously, that is the big driver of this program. Additionally, so how that kind of looks or how that operates is that this program will provide rental subsidies to about 75 to 100 households annually for up to 2 years, if the household needs it for those full 2 years. The selected agency for this RFP will be responsible to administer and oversee the distribution of that financial assistance, which would take the form of rental subsidies, but also could take the form of things like security deposits and utility payments. They'll also be responsible to offer services to help those households identify resources that can secure housing before that financial assistance. And so whether that is at the full 2 years or whether that's that the household is able to secure housing stability before that 2 years, those services should be designed to meet households' needs and help them transition to some form of stable, independent housing before the subsidies end. Next slide. So who is this program targeting, or what is the population that we're looking for to be served with these tenant-based rental assistance? First is that these would be low-income individuals and or families, and how we define that as 30% below the average median in income. HUD has a calculation for this that is in the RFP. Highly recommend you review that and be aware of what that cap is. Secondly, we're looking to target specifically participants or households exiting the rapid rehousing program. And this, to be clear, is the rapid rehousing program funded by DFSS. Again, like we said, we recognize that there are some individuals that are exiting that program that either haven't secured housing or in that 30%, but don't have some type of affordable housing unit, or they are heavily cost burdened. And we want to make sure that there's some option for those individuals and not just simply a return to homelessness. And then the third category that's important for any applicant to review is the actual home ARP qualifying populations. They define several different population types that qualify for this funding. While there is some flexibility in terms of what someone could categorize, though the category that we're looking at most predominantly serving is category 4 of that qualifying population. So again, applicants should review the link to that qualifying population in the RFP and be able to understand what we're looking for that will comply with these top 2 requirements, eligibility requirements, as well as the one that HUD requires as part of the home ARP. Yeah, and in a similar vein as we're talking about that, the selected applicant will be expected to explain the design of their intake, so how they ensure that these eligibility requirements are being made, as well as how they plan to work with DFSS's Rapid Rehousing Program Coordinator, who is all Chicago in this instance, to target referrals for this program to meet the above qualifications. Similarly, for any TBRA program, there is a recertification process involved. So again, this is referenced in the RFP. Applicants should review what are the differences between the eligibility requirements for intake and initial enrollment and the eligibility requirements for recertification, and have an understanding of how they'll administer those. Next slide. So this is by no means an exhaustive list of the program requirements, but these are sort of the core pillars, and will give you some sense of what are the things that the foundational services that we're looking for with this. So as I mentioned already, it's very important that applicants are able to coordinate with the rapid rehousing program to identify participating households. Referrals should only be coming through that program as they are being discharged from the rapid rehousing program into the tenant-based rental assistance program. Similarly, it will be responsible for the applicant who's selected to determine what the tenant rent contribution is based on the household income. So there is some options for households who have 0 income, but for those who do have some form of income, this is a rental subsidy. So the administrator of the TBRA, the tenant-based rental assistance, will be responsible for paying a portion of the rent and ensuring that the tenant's paying for another portion, and understanding how those are calculated in compliance with HUD and in compliance with the RFP is important. It will be important that the TBRA manager works with landlords and property managers to deliver subsidies on behalf of participants. So being able to process payments quickly and effectively, which we also have here, is distribute and track financial assistance payments in a timely and detailed manner. Both those go hand in hand. So having good working relationship with landlords. How we do that is by making sure that financial assistance, the payments that they're expecting are being made, and that's being communicated with them clearly. Another important part is we want to make sure that every unit that someone is staying in and that this program is paying for, that both we can verify that the rent is reasonable, that it meets, that it falls within sort of medium margins of other units in that area, and that someone isn't, being paying for way more for a market rate unit than what they should be in a specific area of the city. And similarly, it will be responsible to ensure that they're up to code and that they've been inspected and comply with Chicago habitability standards. And yeah, that again, there's a lot there that I won't get in detail with on who's responsible for that between the Rapid Rehousing Program Coordinator and the Tenant-Based Rental Assistance Program. But either way, it's still important that the TBRA manager is aware of those habitability standards and is clear on the inspection guidelines. Similarly, we expect the TBRA staff to develop housing stability plans with participants, where they're going to go, how they're going to get there in terms of long-term housing goals. And then in the same vein, offer services that meet those individuals' needs, provide referral-based coordination strategies that promote financial independence and housing stability. The RFP goes through a list of what services we would like to see in an application. Things like case management, legal services, financial literacy, obviously employment services, anything to help a household get to a place where they can pay for their rent or cover their rent housing cost or transition to some other affordable housing is what we're looking for. And then obviously design transparent reporting and clear communication about program outcomes to share with DFSS and other stakeholders, including the Rapid Rehousing Program Coordinator, Continuum of Care, and other city departments. Next slide. So what are sort of the performance goals and outcomes? We're looking for respondents with evidence of strong past performance against desired outcomes and goals. So very important that if you're considering applying for this and you have programs that you've done something similar, that you're incorporating that data or sharing that data with us in your RFP proposal. But some of the key goals are, we want to see 100% of payments being made to property owners and agents within 5 business days of being requested. This is obviously sounds like a big ask, but at the end of the day, one of the most important things we can do in this program is ensure that if we're saying we're going to pay for someone's rent, that it's there when it needs to be there, and that we're providing that sort of safety net for the client and not causing landlords undue burden with having to track down payments. Another goal is we want to see 80% of participants maintain their housing at 12 months. So within the first 12 months of the program, that people are not dropping out of the tenant-based rental assistance program, that they're actually complying with the program, and they're also, if they have a payment of rent, they're paying for it as well. So that's another goal. We want to see that 25% of all participants have shown improved financial stability through new employment, higher income, credit score improvement, creation of savings accounts with monthly contributions, reductions to household debt income ratios. The reason we say 25% here is that we also understand there are going to be some households that need to probably just identify things like affordable housing, right? That like are stuff in the vein of CHA vouchers or a low-income housing tax credit, those kind of things, which would still be seen as a program success, but may not be specifically financial stability necessarily, or additional income in that regard. But we do want to see some improvement amongst the cohort that they have improved financially from when they started in the program. And then the other goal is that 80% of participants have not moved more than twice over the span of a year. So we want to see that, that landlord issues are not occurring on the frequent, that the TBRA applicant is helping manage those landlord relationships. If there are issues with the unit, those are helping to get those resolved, and that they're just improving the longevity. People are staying with landlords. There is the ability with this program, to relocate someone if it's needed. But obviously we want that to be the client's choice, and we want it to not be sort of a frequent thing that occurs in the program. But yeah, I think we can go on to the next slide. So let's talk about how we'll evaluate these applications as you complete them and what we're looking for. So we typically look at sort of 5 core areas for every RFP. The first would be, we're looking at agencies' ability to speak to community involvement. So we want to see that you have a very clear understanding of what the target population is that we're looking at in the RFP. What are their strengths and assets? What are the needs and challenges of that population? We want to see also that you have a plan for hearing back from your clients. It's very important for us that participants feel like they have a voice in their service planning, and that there is a way that you all can evaluate both on the individual level when they're having grievances or issues or concerns, but also on the macro level to ensure both that individuals' needs are being met, but also there's a way to evaluate the wider efficacy of services. We want to see that respondents' leadership reflects or directly engage the people of the communities it serves. It should be just one bullet point there, but yeah, we want to see that we want to understand your leadership composition here. Next slide. The next selection criteria is organizational capacity. Here we're looking for that the respondent identifies adequate and essential personnel to devote to the work, describes appropriate staffing patterns and their qualifications in the context of clients to be served, and has a compelling strategy of filling these positions in a timely manner. So yeah, what is your plan for staffing here? How will you make sure your staff are able to meet the needs of the people that are being served? The respondent has a policy for managing fiscal oversight. The respondent has developed specific capabilities and/or infrastructure to better serve the intended target population. This is specifically looking at what are the sort of skills that you've developed, what's sort of the systems your organization have built in that make you believe that you will be well suited to administer this program. Next slide. Next is the strength of the proposed program. We want to see that the respondent has a clear plan for collaborating with the Rapid Rehousing Program Coordinator to identify and enroll households. Obviously, we understand that not everyone may be familiar with the Rapid Rehousing Program Coordinator, but we still want to hear what would be your approach for engaging with them, and what would be your approach for ensuring that referrals are getting made and that you're able to fill the slots that you need and target those being discharged from rapid rehousing that are the most vulnerable. The respondent's proposed program is supported by a strong national and local evidence base and/or aligns with best practices for the relevant field. The respondent has a plan for connecting participants with supportive services when needed. Next slide. Performance management and outcomes. We want to see that respondents demonstrate evidence of strong past performance against desired outcomes and performance metrics and or other notable accomplishments in providing services to the target population. Again, I talked about this previously. We want to see evidence of other work you've done in other places. Obviously, if you have evidence that are directly related to this type of work, we definitely want to see that in your RFP. The respondent has experience using data to identify problems in service delivery and inform and improve its services or practices. And the respondent has experience when disaggregating data to identify and address disparities in the program delivery. Yeah, and again, we do note here that when appropriate, if you're a previous DFSS delegate, we may use prior performance data already collected by DFSS as relevant to evaluate. Next slide. The reasonable cost, budget justification, and leverage funds. We want to see that respondents demonstrate reasonable implementation of cost and funding requests given the nature of the program proposed. The proposed budget supports the proposed scope of work and the work plan. We want to see that the respondent has the fiscal capacity to implement the proposed program prior to reimbursement. It's important. This is a reimbursement service. So you should demonstrate how you will manage that, right? And how you will be able, like, what is your runway with that? How will you be able to ensure that you can absorb cost until reimbursement? And then additionally, the respondent leverages other funds and in-kind contributions to support the total program and administrative costs, state, federal. We want to see what other sort of funding you're bringing to the table to support this program. We'll get into this a little bit more in the next section, but yeah, that is it for the key selection criteria besides the last piece, which is, next slide, the attachments. Yeah, so be sure that anything, reports, studies, other documentation that show performance toward your goals or demonstrates results and accomplishment, attach it. Be sure to attach resumes for key staff that are overseeing the program, and be sure to attach your organization's budget for this program. Yeah, and just make sure that when you're attaching this stuff that it's labeled correctly, so we're not getting confused of what documents are what. But you are more than welcome to include any documentation that you would like in this to demonstrate why you think you would be a good applicant for this program. Next slide. So the evaluation process, we evaluate this on the strengths of the proposal and the responsiveness of the selection criteria that we just went through. Failure to submit a complete proposal or respond fully to all the requirements may make your submission subject to rejection. Once we've reviewed all of them, the commissioner, DFSS's Commissioner Angela Green, upon review, will recommend agencies and may reject or deny those recommended agencies that have applied for grants based on previous performance and or area need. And DFSS reserves the right to ensure that all mandated services are available citywide and provide a linguistically and culturally appropriate manner. Next slide. So what's our timeline for all of this? Obviously today is our pre-proposal webinar. Due date for any questions you have that you would like us to have an addendum to the RFP to clarify for you are due on August 3rd, 2026 by 5 p.m. And applications close August 20th, 2026, I believe at 12 p.m. Central Time. The program start date, the launch for when we plan the tenant-based rental assistance program to be operational would be January 1st, 2027. So that's when the funding and the award would begin for this RFP. And here are the actual numbers for you all. So the contract term would run from January 1st, 2027 through June 30th, 2030. If that seems a little odd to you, for those of you who know that we typically run to a December end date on a lot of our contracts, because these are home ARP funds, they have to be exhausted in the end of December 2030. And so we want to make sure that we have runway for us to close the books on our end. So we're asking them to be exhausted by June 30th, 2030. The total award would be $6 million. The annual award would be $2 million annually. And then the administrative cost or indirect cost for this would be, we have a 15% cap with DFSS. Match requirement, this is what I spoke about earlier in the budget section where we were discussing respondent leverages other fund in-kind contributions to support total administrative costs. We do require all programs demonstrate a 10% match in terms of other funding they are putting towards this proposal, and that can take many forms, whether that is administrative, office, those kind of things, but we do want to see at least 10% of your own dollars being used to help set up this program and help operate it. We're asking you, everyone who applies to submit a budget for 1 year for 12 months of service. Cost category definitions are attached as budget instructions in every RFP. Please be thoughtful and inclusive when developing your budget. Apply for your program's actual costs. Obviously, we can't give you more money than what you ask for. So just be mindful of that. Use the reasonable cost questions on the application to discuss how you determine the cost reflected in the budget. Next slide. So yeah, just wanted to go through some common errors here that we see in the budget and cost proposals. So on fringe benefits, be sure you check your calculations on those. For supplies, these are frequently under or over budget. And then for client assistance, if this is appropriate or allowable cost, which it is for this program, don't forget to include it. Make sure your job descriptions, titles, and job description uploads have the same title. Also put a brief description in the job and budget document itself if you have not discussed it specifically in your application. Just as a tip for everyone, typically on a program like this, where financial assistance is being given directly to clients, that would be client assistance. That's what we mean by client assistance. Put your budget in the appropriate column and show your match. Obviously, we just talked about that. Show us that 10% match. And then the last slide here, and I will turn it back over to my colleague Jillian. Just a reminder to everyone that applications are due August 20th, 2026 at noon Central Time. So yeah, that is it for me, and I will kick it back to Jillian.
Thanks, Cameron. We usually take this time to answer any questions in the questions box, but I don't see any. We will pause again for questions towards the end of the presentation. And again, the question due date is Monday, August 3rd at 5 p.m. We're going to move forward with application tips. And our most important application tip is to start your application as early as possible and to save it as often as possible as you're working on it. If you have never done business with the City of Chicago, please register into iSupplier as soon as possible. Review the RFP narrative and application questions closely. Remember that they align with the scope and the selection criteria. Please use the information in the RFP for guidance in formulating your answers. There is a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces. Each response is allotted 4,000 characters. Please try not to use the back button on your browser while you're working on your application. You could potentially lose any work. And again, we can't stress it enough to start your application as early as possible. Some tips for working in e-procurement. To submit multiple applications for an RFP, applicants will need to set up a unique user account in iSupplier. The e-procurement system is not capable of submitting more than one distinct proposal per associated email address. Therefore, you must use a separate email address for each submission. You can submit your application and later amend it up until the due date of August 20th at 12 noon. Avoid the rush and possible mishaps by submitting early. Please plan on your submission taking approximately 30 to 60 minutes. Please be advised that late applications cannot be accepted, and we also cannot accept applications via email. All applications have to be submitted by the deadline of 12 noon, August 20th, 2026 in iSupplier. For assistance, please make use of the e-procurement hotline at 312-744-4357. They also can be reached at customer support at cityofchicago.org. As far as the hotline, it operates during business hours only, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, we strongly encourage applicants to save your application as you're going along and to try to submit your application early. Just some new agency requirements. We require agencies to provide articles of incorporation and any amended articles of incorporation. We also require an IRS affirmation letter. Please note that the affirmation letter is for not-for-profit agencies only. This letter must be dated within 60 days of your submission. You can obtain this letter by calling the IRS directly at 1-877-829-5500. However, if you are a for-profit agency, please submit your original letter from the IRS showing your FEIN number. The UEI number is required in addition to the central contractor registration, which can be obtained from the entity overview page on the sam.gov website. Lastly, a certificate of good standing letter with the state of Illinois is required. As of April 2024, we have a labor peace agreement ordinance, which applies to all DFSS and CDPH delegates that have 20 or more employees working for their organization. Contractor must provide written notice to the commissioner or her designee within 72 hours of becoming aware that their employees may want to organize or that a union seeks to represent employees. You may ask, what is an LPA? A labor peace agreement is an agreement between an employer and a labor union that ensures that an organizing drive is not impacted by union busting techniques, including employee retaliation. And in return, they will not strike or stop work in a way that will impact human services. For technical assistance, on the DFSS webpage, there will be a link to the RFP of interest and training documents. Please see alerts section on our website. For questions on registration and e-procurement, technical assistance for delegate agencies, please contact customer support at cityofchicago.org, as well as the help desk, which is 312-744-4357. And we also have training materials, which include documents and videos, on the cityofchicago.org website under online training materials. At this time, we're going to delve into how to enter responses and accepting any amendments. Step 1, you must select Create Quote from the drop-down menu in the Actions box, and then you click on Go. This will take you to the application page where you can get started. If the RFP you are interested in has been amended, you will need to acknowledge and accept that amendment to start or submit a response. To accept the amendment, you must click on View Amendment History, circled here. To begin the acceptance and acknowledgement process, please follow the steps after clicking View Amendment History. First, you click on the document number. Next, you click on the infinity or eyeglass icon to review the amended changes to the RFP. Next, you click on the Acknowledge Amendments button to acknowledge receipt and understanding of the changes to proceed. And by acknowledging the amendment, you are indicating that you are aware of any changes made to the RFP, in addition to any questions and answers that may be attached to the amendment as well. Step 3. Once you get to this screen, you click on the I accept checkbox and then you click on acknowledge. Next, you click on yes to indicate that you confirm your acknowledgement of the amendment. Lastly, you click on the checkbox that you accept the terms and conditions and then click on accept to accept them. And that is the final step in acknowledging and accepting the amendment. Once the amendment is acknowledged and accepted, you can move forward with submitting your actual application, which we'll go through now. So step 1 on how to submit your application. So when you are ready to submit, meaning that you've answered all required questions, you've attached all required documentation, you start by saving your draft one last time and then clicking continue. If you are missing information, you will be given an error message at the top of the screen, similar to what's listed here. Usually that error message directs to something left undone in the application. So in the last example, the error message indicated that the lines found under the Lines tab had not been completed. In the example listed here, the error is about an unanswered question in the application or requirement section. And the quote value refers to your, in this case, missing answer. Once your application is free from errors, you are now ready to proceed and submit. And at that point, clicking continue should put your application into the review and submit phase. Once you see this screen, this is like a summary page, and this is also your last chance to review all of your data and to confirm that everything is accurate. So use this opportunity to check your attachments and scroll to the bottom of the screen to see all of your responses. And at the very bottom of the screen, you will be asked to provide an electronic signature. Please be sure to fill in that signature before checking the box. Lastly, you can click Submit to submit your application. Once you submit your application, you will see a screen similar to what's listed here. This is like a submission confirmation screen. And the e-procurement system will also send a confirmation email within 24 hours of your submission. However, please feel free to call or email me if you desire confirmation prior to then. My name is Jillian Black. My email is jillian.black@cityofchicago.org. At this time, we're going to pause for any questions we might have. Again, I don't see any questions in the questions box, but that's totally fine. We still have the time to ask your questions up until Monday, August 3rd at 5 p.m. For any programmatic questions, those could be sent to Cameron. His information is listed on the screen here. And any non-programmatic questions, if you're having any technical issues, anything with e-procurement, those can be sent to customer support at cityofchicago.org. as well as the e-procurement hotline. Their number is listed on the screen as well. And you can also reach out to me, Jillian Black. My information is listed on the screen as well. If you desire confirmation that we received your application, and anything I can help with as far as e-procurement. I see that one question just came in. Cameron, one question just came in. You're able to. You're on mute.
I don't see the question. Do you?
Yes, it's in the, well, I can read it out to you.
Sure.
What assumptions did DFSS use to determine the $2 million annual program budget, including projected average monthly rental assistance per household, utility assistance, and security deposit cost?
That's a good question. So we had 6 million and we have roughly 3 years to spend this, 2.5 to spend these dollars. So the initial calculation based on the 2 million annually was we looked at the number of households we plan to serve for this program, or the target number that we would like to serve. And we used some internal calculations based on historic data of rental costs to determine what would be needed for that number of households over a year. And that's kind of how we came to the calculation. But it should be noted that the TBRA, the applicant or the selected delegate for this will need to work with a rapid rehousing provider or delegate to ensure that they are taking into account their annual costs, their annual award with requests they are getting as well, to ensure they have the funding for the year to be able to support the households that they are enrolling in and placing into a tenant-based rental subsidy.
Thank you, Cameron. I believe that's all the questions we have at this time. Again, question deadline is August 3rd at 5 p.m. Those can be sent to Cameron. This information is listed on the screen, and any non-programmatic questions can be sent to customer support at cityofchicago.org. So before we close out, Cameron, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add. Thank you all for attending, and we really look forward to reviewing your applications, and I'm looking at and reading through your proposals.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this webinar. Good luck on your applications and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All good, Jillian?
All good.
All right. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Bye.
Take care, y'all.
All right.